Imagine living in a town where the dust is so toxic that the city will vacuum your attic for free.
The things we test for are arsenic and lead.
And then a pair of gloves and that's suited up.
Welcome to Butte, where for 150 years the mining industry dumped waste in all kinds of places.
You'll catch it just dumping right now at the crusher. The biggest thing is the dust. This is what, when I was saying dust, a day, 2 days later, it's back to what it is right now.
At one point, this city produced so much copper, it was nicknamed the richest hill on Earth. Now, the industry has to pay billions of dollars for one of America's largest environmental cleanups. And this toxic lake filled with acid and heavy metals is at the center of it all. So how did the richest hill get stuck with a deadly pit? And can this old mining city clean up more than a century's worth of waste? Like generations before him in Butte, Larry Hoffman spent most of his life in the mines.
I've been underground basically since I was 8 years old.
He operates the city's last underground mine. It's called the Orphan Boy, and it opened over a century ago. At the peak of the copper boom, there were over 100 shafts like this one. Imagine thousands of men working as far as a mile down, in extreme heat and near complete darkness.
And then you turn off the light, and then there's one candle burning that the men work by.
Underground mining was the norm for decades. But when the richest veins of copper started running dry, Butte switched to open pit mining, which was cheaper and safer. The Berkeley Pit opened in the 1950s. Pumps would work 24/7 to keep it dry. As the pit grew, it swallowed up entire neighborhoods. Anaconda, the company that monopolized mining for most of Butte's history, owned the earth under everyone's house. An estimated 3,500 homes were relocated to make way for the pit in the 1960s and 70s. But no one was prepared for the industry's looming collapse. By the 1980s, the mine was under new management. The oil company Atlantic Richfield, what most people call ARCO, had been closing mines around Butte as copper prices crashed. That's when the Berkeley Pit started turning into a toxic lake. The miners' union went on strike after the company failed to make a deal. ARCO closed the pit and shut down the water pumps. Nearly 10,000 miles of underground tunnels beneath the Berkeley Pit began flooding. Air and water mixed with iron pyrite, or fool's gold, to complete the chemical formula for sulfuric acid. When that mixture hit the walls of the flooded mines, heavy metals started to leach from the rock. Every year for the next 3 decades, the level of the toxic water rose.
No, it was a huge mistake to shut down the pumps, and it was something that was eminently foreseeable. Where's the water going to go? If you quit pumping, it's just going to keep rising.
The pit water has leveled off, for now. If it goes up another 50 feet, it could threaten the groundwaters around Butte. And it's so toxic, it can cook birds from the inside out. But around the same time the pit started to flood, something else happened thousands of miles away that would mean big changes in Butte. Congress passed a new law that forced corporate polluters to pay huge sums for the messes they make. The government called it Superfund.
Years ago, people didn't understand how certain chemical wastes would affect people's health and the environment. Many wastes were dumped on the ground, into rivers, or left out in the open.
Today, about 73 million Americans live within 3 miles of a Superfund cleanup site, and the rest can drive to one without refilling their gas tank. In 1987, ARCO committed hundreds of millions of dollars to Butte's Superfund. But with so much waste, where does a cleanup even start? Experts have looked into all kinds of solutions, but the Berkeley Pit is too big to cover or fill in with earth. To keep birds off the water, the plastic shade balls that are used elsewhere wouldn't work. It would take up to 4 years and cost $80 million to produce enough balls to cover the 435-acre lake. So for now, a team keeps birds out with guns, drones, and noise machines. All of these tools are paid for by ARCO and Montana Resources, the company that continues mining in Butte today. The two companies also fund one of Butte's most expensive Superfund projects, the $19 million treatment facility that filters water from the Berkeley Pit. So far, it's helped to keep the water from rising and spilling over into the aquifer. And the Berkeley Pit water is 100 times less acidic than it was in 2013. The plant releases up to 6 million gallons of treated pit water into a nearby creek every day. Butte's soil is also contaminated with a byproduct of mining called waste rock. That's material that miners pulled out of the ground, but didn't contain enough metals to process. Waste rock usually contains enough acid to kill most plant life. That's why huge patches of the Butte Hill remain bare. In Butte, the most common solution is to bury them.
Everybody understands that there is waste below us. So we have a cap material here that is 18 inches. Do you guys see this? This is tailings waste material that we don't want to really have our plants dealing with. Happy Earth Day!
Exactly 39 years to the day since the pumps at the Berkeley Pit shut down, a group of students and educators gathered on the Butte Hill to return native plants to the landscape. Robert Powell is the professor who oversees the native plant program.
Here we are at the Montana Tech greenhouse, and the native plant project is approximately growing 5,000 containerized plants yearly for the Butte restoration out in the hill.
So these are all lupin seeds, and we like to give them a head start in the greenhouse. So basically, we successfully germinated them, we prepared the soil trays, and now transplanting them.
The hope is that the plants will do some of the cleanup work on their own.
So some of them are really adapted to contamination, and we have been conducting our experiments, and we are finding that they are good at taking up different metals. And it doesn't kill them, it accumulates in their bodies.
Thanks to the Superfund money, Butte now has skate parks and baseball diamonds on what used to be waste dumps. And public health seems to be improving as well. A 2019 study found that overall mortality decreased in the communities around Butte every year since the Superfund cleanup started. And the Berkeley Pit? Well, it's become a pretty popular tourist attraction.
Not your average death metal. This is a top-down view of the pit. Not everyone loves more acid than Woodstock, but I think it's funny, so.
Every year, tens of thousands of visitors pay $3 to see it.
I think it's gorgeous.
It is.
I've been thoroughly
I mean, it may
surprised.
be toxic and lethal, but it's really pretty.
Yeah, I mean, if I didn't know about the toxicity of it, I would probably want to jump in, but now I don't want to.
The viewing platform raises enough money to pay the staff. So nobody's getting rich off the Berkeley Pit anymore. But with Superfund, Butte is on a path to clean up the mistakes of the past. If you like this story, be sure to check out our other episode about why Butte spent millions of dollars to keep birds off the Berkeley Pit. To see more episodes of Worldwide Waste, click on our series playlist.